Monday, former quarterback at USC, former quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. He is on in the mornings in Houston, and he is all over football, both college and the NFL. Sean, it is so great to see you. We took a couple of weeks hiatus, but it's time to work, so it's great to have you on again, buddy.
Great to be with you, my man. I appreciate it, and it's been too long, but it's that time of year, my man. Let's roll.
Yeah, before I roll, I do want to ask you about an app that you started that you are in charge of, and pro sports fans, and I've been checking it out. I've been seeing some of the people that you have on your app. I think it's going to be phenomenal. For those that are not familiar with it, let's talk a little bit about that first.
Yeah, Grant, I know we got a lot to get to, and thank you. They approached me like late last fall and they've been working on this app, or the technology team, for about 3 or 4 years. And when in January, February, and they asked me and showed me it and put a demonstration, I said, now this is something, we get approached by a lot of things, and I'm usually a skeptic. I just am. But once I saw this, I said, I'm in, because we preach fan engagement, and this app finally gives it to us. It is for the fan, by the fan. We got fan casts. We got, doing shows. So basically what it is, the best fan engagement app on the planet. It's called Pro Sports Fans, and it's at PSF_app on Twitter, and go get the free app. And we have got a phenomenal, compelling content covering, like, you figure the Manning cast, Grant, but we'll have that for every game in every football city in the country. And college is coming down the pike. We did it for the Astros were our template. We realized that we need this because fans have instantaneous questions on an X and O, or why a pitcher threw this pitch. And I don't call it a game cast anymore. I call it a fan cast, because now they don't just have to type it in. It's audio and video. So where you and I are going through something and we're talking, and all of a sudden, instead of listening to the podcast a week later, which is fine, they can chime right in and be part of a community in a chat room. Now think of the expansion of this. Let's say you got 25 gambling experts game day, and then they want to go in and get their last second changes. They're answering the questions from the fans now, not on typing or looking at a website. They come in and talk to us. And with monetization, with sponsorships, our investors have been off the charts. We've got compelling content all over, and the gambling app's net. So if you're on there, you'll hit a button. It'll take you where do you want to go. Look at the lines, boom, bring you on back, where you can bet it there and come on back to our site. And it's PSF, and at PSF_app on Twitter. And it's, Grant, I think we're on to something not just special, but epic as far as our business, because while the space of sports commentary is crowded, this isn't. Fans deserve, and I call it, we're giving fans a seat at the table, not just by typing or watching us and listening to us talk. We're talking with you. So you can ask that great interview you have. If Charles Barkley's on, you have questions, bam, we got you. And whether it's the Giants or the Jets or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, every game that's played, we will cover in basketball, football, baseball. But we'll also have shows during the week. Like I'll do a show where we're breaking down, the pregame show on a Sunday with a gambling expert on, as well as battle back and forth about why the Jets are going to beat the Buffalo Bills. But we've got great talent, and it's about the fan. And we finally made it about the fan. And from our sponsors to our talent to people who promote it like you, and to our investors that have turned this into, I think, is a game changer.
I do too.
And I think a lot of people do. And it's starting to, the legs are starting to flow, and I am so pumped for the fan. I really am. So thanks, Grant.
I loved it. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the good first, then we'll get to the bad. Of all the teams that I watched yesterday, I got to tell you, Sean, I was most impressed with San Francisco. And I think we can all agree that probably the first Monday after the first weekend of the NFL regular season is the biggest overreaction of the calendar year in sports. But what the Niners did to Pittsburgh, a Mike Tomlin team on both sides of the football, I was kind of like, wow. And Sean, for anyone that's still doubting Brock Purdy, you better wake the hell up.
Yeah, Grant, it was a beatdown, and that's hard to say about a Mike Tomlin team, because I said on the show last week, I said, when you go into Pittsburgh, you better expect to be punched in the face. If you can't handle a fist fight, and you and I both know all these years, that ain't the place to go play football on a Mike Tomlin team. And they dismantled them on both sides of the ball. And they were my Super Bowl pick going in the NFC. I love their roster and the questions around Purdy. Obviously, health, you're going to say that about Rodgers, about Allen, about Mahomes. You got to stay healthy. But I was asked this question last week in San Francisco, and they were talking about why Purdy, what are his strengths? I'll say, and I told him, I said, he makes the ordinary play all the time. He doesn't miss it all the friggin' time. And you saw it was a perfect example yesterday. Hits the curl, hits the flat, doesn't try to force it. If he misses one, it's a small miss and comes back and hits the touchdown. And he's a sneaky athlete. I don't think we give him enough credit. I love him. I think he's perfect for Kyle Shanahan's system. And like I said, when you got an open corner route, he doesn't leave it on the ground. People think it's the huge play that separates you from other games. Now, players maybe. It's the ordinary play that the greatest players in the world that don't. Breeze didn't miss it. Manning didn't miss it. Brady didn't miss it. Mahomes didn't miss it. Warren Moon didn't miss it. They make the ordinary play ordinary. Us mere mortals making the ordinary play extraordinary sometimes because we're not as consistent. Brock Purdy's perfect for that team. The 49ers, Eagles will get better. I love their roster, but I think the 49ers are the team to beat in the NFC, and a lot of that's due to not only the roster and the way they're coached, but I think that Kyle Shanahan, as his most consistent quarterback that he's had, and I know how good and talented Matt Ryan is, I think Brock Purdy gives you that same guts and even then some.
All right, I want to talk about the team that you love and the Raiders. A couple of thoughts from that game. First of all, anytime you can win on the road in that division, that's a big win. I'm looking at Denver because all eyes were on Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Here's what I saw. You play the quarterback position. I don't. I saw a better Russell Wilson, but the inability to throw the ball down the field, too many throws to the running back. You know, we only averaged 4.1 yards a reception. That's not going to get it done in the NFL. What did you see in Russell Wilson?
Yeah, and the difference is while Russell Wilson may be in the 60s completion percentage, you could do that with Drew Brees because he completed 75% of his passes. And that's 2 or 3 extra series. Russ couldn't play any worse. I thought he was a lower third quarterback. We talked about that ad nauseum. Sean Payton is, if Sean can't fix him, I'm not sure who can. But the thing that I also saw, and Grant, you are 100% correct. And think about this when Russ Wilson came into this league. You know what his specialty was? Deep ball throwing. The arc on the ball. I mean, he was such a great deep ball thrower. Now maybe it's just a matter of time because his percentage was up. He made some good throws. But you know when he made all his good throws, or at least the majority of them, is what he didn't do last year. Extend the play. Now the question is, if you prevent him from extending the play and get to him and he holds the ball too long and jacks that thing, guess what happens? Now you're going to force him to beat you from the pocket. He couldn't last year. The question is, can he this year? His 2 touchdown passes were scrambles into throw, scrambling to his right. You corral him, and I'm not sure Russ Wilson's best games are in front of him. He'll play better with Peyton. I don't think they're a playoff team, even though they were better, and I think that Russ Wilson played better. I got to have more, and I got to have more threat down the field.
All right, I did a rant on this today. A lot of playoff teams from last year lost and lost badly. I want to start with Cincinnati. Now, I know last year they started off 0-2, and again, I'm not going to overreact, but their offensive line looked putrid. They looked like they had never played together. I mean, think about this. The Cincinnati Bengals could not even score a touchdown in Cleveland. I think the Browns are better. I know you're a big Deshaun Watson guy. If he can get back to where he was a few years ago, I could actually see the Browns being right there towards the end of the season. But Cincinnati looked horrible, Sean.
They did.
Absolutely horrible.
They did. Listen, that roster in Cleveland's a top 5 roster. Great. You go up and down it. I mean, they are. And Myles Garrett's always created problems for Joe Burrow. And I don't think Burrow's beat but one time. I think he's 1-4 against.
He's now 1-5 after yesterday.
1-5 against Cleveland.
Yep.
So, just like Mahomes can't beat Burrow, right? He has trouble beating him. So it's a defense. It always seems to the pressures and the rest of it. And what's been the reason probably that the Bengals haven't won a Super Bowl the last couple of years? That offensive line has prevented them. That's exactly right, because their talent's enormous too. That's Mike Tomlin's team's not going away. Matter of fact, if you're betting somebody this week, you might want to bet them and Cincinnati both, because I don't think Burrow's going to play as bad, and I sure as hell don't think Mike Tomlin's going to his team's going to like the practice field this week. No. I assure you. So I think I love Cincinnati's team, but you can't unless you can be physical and punch somebody in the face. And Cleveland has owned them. I'm a Deshaun Watson talent fan because I think he adds something that they haven't had in a long time. He's hard to root for. He really is, Grant. He's hard for me to root for, but I know this. If you're just sticking to the X's and O's, the Cleveland Browns are better with him there. But their defense is going to give that offense a lot of short fields, and Burrow's got to play better. I got news for you. I don't know who they're playing next week because I haven't even looked, but I'm taking Burrow.
Baltimore.
Who are they playing?
Baltimore.
Okay, well, I'll take Burrow I'll still take Burrow in them. Even if they start 0-2, they're going to be a playoff team. And Baltimore's offense got shut down a little bit by DeMeco Ryans. They didn't give up home run plays to Lamar, which was an important part of yesterday's game for them.
All right, I saw a lot of horrible offensive line play. I didn't see any offensive line play worse than what I saw from the Giants. I've been watching the Giants since the Y.A. Tittle days, Sean, and I really mean this. I've been watching the New York Giants for 61 years, and I'm not trying to exaggerate. I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know if I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of bad teams and a lot of bad years with the Giants. I don't know if I ever saw a worse performance than last night. Sean, that offensive line looked like they went out to a junior college nearby and said, hey, I'm looking for 5 guys to block Micah Parsons in this defensive front. Not only did the first team defense destroy the Giants offensive line, their backups destroyed the Giants offensive line. That it was as bad of a performance that I think I've ever seen. And I'm not kidding you, Sean.
Listen, Grant, I am with you. The Giants should have been playing on Friday night the way they looked last night.
That's right.
They really should have.
And they would have still lost.
There's no good. And so I want to give some of that. I think the Cowboys defense, and I think Bosa, Miles, Garrett, there's a handful of them. But I got news for you. When his contract comes up, no offense to the Bosa, he's running by him, man.
Number one.
He's going by both one Bosa had a high contract, the other Bosa just got his.
Yep.
Micah Parsons is going to blow by him as well, just like Burrow. I assure you. Now, that being said, you still got to put a hat on somebody. You got to block somebody. Right. And what a difference a year makes. Now, I'm going to caution people, and you hit it at the top of this show. We got to stop. We can't bury Geno Smith just yet.
No.
Brock Purdy's not going to the Hall of Fame. The Bill Belichick's offense isn't going to be this putrid. They'll get better. Their defense is good. The Bengals aren't going to throw for 80 yards each week. And Daniel Jones, we're not ready. It's not time to start thinking Michael Penix or one of those guys in the top. Slow it down a little bit. Because I know when we ended the season, everybody started to say, "Ooh, look what Daniel Jones did with Dable and their new offense." So slow it down. I got 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get an idea who they are. But you cannot beat games in your division. I'm going to tell you what. You thought the Cowboys defense was good. That front seven when they play the Washington team, as they get rolling, they will maul your ass. And so it doesn't get easy in that division. And Philadelphia is not exactly chopped liver. So if you better have a good supply of body gap bags. If your ass is going to block like that, you better show your ass up, or you're going to find yourself picking higher than you want to pick. And we'll start to hear that all over the place. It's 1 week, but if 1 week's judgment, that's a bottom third team after 1 week.
I think Dallas has a roster to do a lot of damage this year, but I'm still not sold on their quarterback. And if you tell me that they get the play that we think they can get when you watch Dak Prescott play at his best, then I would say yes. Defensively, I would put them right up there with San Francisco and Philly. I think defensively, especially with how they can get at the quarterback, I got to put Dallas in that category. Skill people, I got to put them with anyone. And we'll get to Miami in a minute. But that Dallas team, they got a hell of a roster.
Oh, boy, do they. And that, you know what, Grant, there's times in the offseason you think, well, how's this division going to look? And I think Sam Howell's going to be better than people think.
I agree.
They know their defense. Yep. I know what Philadelphia is about. They got to overcome losing 2 coordinators, as good teams usually do.
Yep.
The Cowboys' defense is sick, and their perimeter people are really good. And Pollard's the feature back, and he's a good player.
Yep.
And the crazy thing about it is 3 years ago, we just said, man, if they can get some people with Dak Prescott, Dak throws for 4,800 yards. He has got to settle in. And Schottenheimer is going to protect him and Mike McCarthy more than Kellen Moore want to drop back and throw it 45 times.
Yep.
But we got to find out listen, I'll know who Dak Prescott is because I've seen the ebbs and flows of his game. If they don't get where they're going, it's going to fall largely on the head coach and the quarterback because I'm not worried about if the defense is healthy, they're going to knock you in the mouth. And the offense has got enough players. We've got the excuses. We've got to roll them out because Dak Prescott doesn't have many of those. And I root for him because he's such a good dude and he's a good player. But all that fun and games falls into the same category. Is he Cousins? Who's Prescott? Who that group in the middle that gets you to January or kind of and just can't quite close out. And it's not just them, but it does. It feeds. Look what 49ers do. The second Purdy's in the lineup. Boom, last year. Look what the Burrow shows up and look what happens. Mahomes shows up. There is a difference in energy and attitude and a believability that you must get buy-in with your coach. And you sure as shit got to get buy-in with your quarterback. If you don't have both, you're going to eliminate yourself. So while after 1 week, you're exactly right. But Dak Prescott, I think and he's not a talker. It's a put up or shut up game this week and this season for the Cowboys and that quarterback.
Sean, there were a lot of eyes on the Green Bay-Chicago game for Jordan Love with Green Bay and obviously Justin Fields now in his 3rd year, and they really helped him out by getting pieces. What did you take away from that matchup?
I thought it was listen, I looked at the passing chart of the Bears, and I'm trying to figure out, are you telling me they had 3 passes that I believe were over 10 or 12 yards attempted down the field. Everything else was 0 behind the line of scrimmage, or 0 to 10 yards. Now, I understand with Fields you're trying to protect it, but there comes a point in time the governor's got to come off. The guy's a talented kid. I got to find out where it is, and I don't just want it to be with his legs because he will not last. Even he's a big physical kid. I expected more from them. I actually thought they'd win the game at home yesterday. I did. I thought it'd be close, like a field goal or an extra point type game, but it disappointed them. I'm going to tell you how I feel about that game. It was time. It was stale with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I think people got tired of the speech. They got tired, and I love Rodgers. He's a monster. But in Green Bay, I think the fan base, the it's here we go again. The offseason, what's Aaron want to do?
It was time to move on.
Started to hold him. Yes, it was. And Love did what backups are supposed to do, even when they're frustrated, Grant. He didn't sit there and say, trade me. He listened, he watched, he worked. And when the opportunity presented itself, he looked like a ball player yesterday. I think they're in good hands. And I also think it's going to work for the Jets. And I think it's going to work for Aaron Rodgers. He feels rejuvenated. He needed out. It was stale for both sides. The Packers were really good. They may end up being the second best team in the division because I think the Detroit Lions are the best team in that division.
Oh, boy.
But I was impressed with the way Green Bay played. Yeah. And I actually think the players are going to rally around Love because you know what? If you drop, I think Aaron had that feeling. If you dropped the ball, you were going to go get the wrath of Rodgers on the side. And for some, that speech gets old. Yeah. It'll work well in New York. I think they'll respond well. Jordan Love was the man for the job. The Green Bay Packers this year will be better than they were last year. Whether that means playoffs or not, I don't know because they didn't make it last year. It was time for Jordan Love.
All right, I'm going to give the coaching of the week honors in college to Sarkisian of Texas.
No
what he did and how he coached the Texas Longhorns is we are going to try to win the game. We're not going to try not to lose the game. It's 3rd down and long, no problem. You know, if it's 4th and short, we're going for it. We're not playing conservative. We are going to punch them in the mouth. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed with Ewers. I was so impressed with that Texas front. What a performance by the Texas Longhorns on Saturday in Tuscaloosa.
Sarkisian has to take backseat to nobody when it comes to calling plays, Grant. He really does it.
Amazing.
And yesterday validated it. He's got a quarterback that can rip it. And what I like after last week, the rumors already started about Arch Manning.
That's
as
right.
much as I love Arch, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of composure to be where Quinn Ewers is and say, instead of pressing on the road against Alabama, it reeked of could he go there and throw 3 picks? And you know what? He played with poise. He can rip it like anybody else in college football. The ball's all over it. I mean, he knows how to throw it. I've seen that kid since the 8th grade. I'm telling you, he can rip it. Now, he's got a great play caller. Their defense is really good, and they gave Nick all he could handle. I bet Nick was watching thinking, my defense needs to play like that. And I'm going to tell you one little quick sidebar to this, Grant.
Yeah.
If Nick doesn't buy into name, image, and I hate to say this because he's so good, the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness have changed this game, whether we like it or not.
Yep.
And if you don't jump on it, what's going to happen? It's the great equalizer. It is. And if Sark would have played for not to lose that game, that's when Saban's got you. Oh, you want to play 17-14? You're finished, dude. And Saban's back now. He doesn't have Bryce Young to bail him out or Tua to throw him out. He's got Jalen Milroe, who I know him. He's a kid right here from Katy, and he's a good player, but he's not a great thrower of the football. You saw what throwing the football matters. Texas threw it. Sark took chances. I think 4 different receivers had catches 30 yards or more. Yeah. That's the difference in games. Now, you got to make the easy ones, which he did. But every now and again, when they rear their head, you can't, especially on the road against in a hostile environment, you got to make those throws.
Yeah,
Texas got a chance to be in the Final Four because the Big 12 this year, watching Baylor and TCU, you can roll through that conference and win it. And Texas is the favorite. And if you win the Big 12, you got a legit chance of getting yourself into that playoff.
Sean, final thing for you, and I want to go back to the NFL because you just mentioned Tua. I don't have a crystal ball any more than you do. So let's have this conversation as if he's going to be upright and not on the sideline with another concussion.
Fair.
Can he be the best quarterback in the National Football League?
He's going to complete close to 70%, right in that range, and he's got a brilliant, all the Kyle Shanahan stuff. I know all that. DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Sluck. I know that whole group. I'm just telling you that a lot of the brains behind that is a guy who looks like he belongs in Santa Cruz on a surfboard in Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
And they've got weapons friggin' galore on offense, and their team speed is
unbelievable.
Nuts. It is. Grant, I'm going to tell you, and we're assuming every quarterback's healthy. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what, and I know it's one game and we overreact, so let us. with those weapons, his accuracy, and he knows his arm's not the strongest. So what does he do? Throws on time. He's gotten so much better. And what's the difference other than where they're from and one's left-handed, one's right-handed? What are the knocks on Purdy? Not overly athletic, but sneaky. Tua. Mm-hmm. What are the knocks on Tua and Purdy? Well, don't have the big, powerful arm, but they throw on time. And you know what they both do? The guy's open in the flat, they don't miss him. The guy's open on a curl, they don't miss him. And then throwing slant routes, knowing that you throw it to Waddle or Hill, a hitch screen, and the guy's taking it at the distance, it's a good blessing. I think if he plays 17 games, Tua will be an MVP candidate. He will be the offensive player of the year because they will throw for 52, 5,300 yards. And then they'll mix in the run because your running backs got as much speed as about 89, 90% of the teams in this league as well. And players, they got game, man. That's going to be a brutal division. But Tua showed up yesterday and dismantled. I'll tell you what, if you're in LA with the Chargers, you ain't got much of a leash there. If you don't get them to the playoffs big this year, there'll be another coach there in LA with those Chargers. I promise you. Enjoy the game tonight, my friend. Loved it. I can't wait. Who you got real quick, Grant? I think Buffalo's going to win. I think the Jets have been a lot of talk this year. Talk. I know it's a huge stage. I do like the defense. I'm a little worried about both offensive lines. I think the offensive line for the Jets is the biggest question mark, Sean. That's the reason why I'm picking Buffalo. What about you? One thing about the Jets is one thing about Rodgers, too. What does he do that Marino's always done? He can kind of help the offensive line because the ball comes out so quickly. So he can kind of offset that a little with his accuracy. If they haven't believed their press clippings, they'll play great tonight. If they haven't believed that everybody's telling them. And I'll tell you what, for a team that's been dominant the last few years, not a damn person's talking about Buffalo. You know what I'm saying? On the national scope. So dangerous team tonight. I think it's a field goal game. I'll give it to the Jets because they're at home, and I think Rodgers is ready. But I think Buffalo still wins the division, and Miami right there with them. 3 teams in the playoffs from the East. And Josh Allen's got to be the quarterback of 2 years ago, not last year. He was very erratic in crunch time last year. Yeah, and he can't lead the team in rushing, Grant. He just can't. You can't. Or guess what? He'll be standing over there, and we'll pull Ken Dorsey's ass out of the press box, and he'll go from calling plays to throwing him like he did at Miami and throwing the football. There you go. Have fun, brother. Thank you. I'll see you next week. See you, buddy. All right. What a great segment that is with Sean Salisbury. I absolutely love it. I mean, he is the best. He is absolutely the best. I'll tell you what else is the best, and that's Bennett's and Bennett's West Side Grill. Yes, indeed. They are now open in Rockland at the Blue Oaks Town Center. Go out and see them. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Make a reservation. Check out the menu and more. That's Bennett's West Side Grill. How much fun is that with Sean Salisbury? How did your teams do? Yes, indeed. Hit that thumbs up button. And I'll tell you what else. If you have not yet subscribed, please take a minute and subscribe to the channel because it would mean a lot to me. We're going to have a lot of programming. Cody's all over this. Tonight is a incredible matchup. Everything. All right. Number of touches from the running backs, everything. I think offensive lines. I think the Bills got some issues on the offensive line, too. So, I think that's something to keep an eye on as well. A couple of thoughts on yesterday. Niners, to me, looked really, really good. I was so impressed with what I saw from them. And I thought Pittsburgh would put up a hell of a fight, and they didn't. The Niners steamrolled them. The Cowboys looked just dominant. I thought the Rams had an unbelievable week 1. I had Ryan on Listen App on Friday. He made a good point that the Rams have the Seahawks number, and they sure did. I thought Jordan Love played very well. I mean, the Vikings, to me, not nearly as good as their record showed last year. They lose at home to Tampa. Baker goes in there and beats Cousins. Those are some of the things. And then we just talked about Tua. His performance yesterday was off the charts. Absolutely off the charts, and an incredible performance. And I can't go over every game with every team. Those are some of the things that bounce off me. I thought Garoppolo, I didn't like the decision inside the 5. I thought that was a force, and you can't do that. But I like the way the Raiders played, and Max Crosby's the real freaking deal. The guy's a monster. And Russell Wilson not able to get the ball down the field. I think Denver's in for a long year. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to be great, but I like the way the Raiders played. I like the way they were composed, and I saw some real positives out there. So there we have it. Cody says he thought the Cardinals were going to win the game yesterday. I did too. It was pretty darn close. And I'll tell you this, the Giants are at Arizona this week, and I don't see the Giants, based on what I saw last night, winning. I'm sorry. I just don't. I mean, the Giants are going to have to get up off the mat in a hurry and figure out how to block some people. All right. And Riley said his Rams
surprised him. We really had no idea what to expect going into Seattle. Been a Rams fan for 55 years. It's one game 16 ago. It was a big win. It's a divisional game on the road. It is a very impressive win. All right. Thank you very much. My thanks to Sean Salisbury. Great stuff. And enjoy the game tonight. All right. Enjoy the game. And don't forget, if you have any issues with your plumbing, all right, make sure you go to New Works Plumbing. They are awesome. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you, and they've got their 24/7 service. But a lot of fun doing this, a lot of fun each and every Monday. We are going to have Sean Salisbury on, all right, every single Monday. All right. Love it. Love it. All right. Good stuff right there. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Enjoy the game tonight. So long, everybody.